There's a question over there. Oh, that's Craig. Yeah.
This asteroid that's coming close, 2012 DA
14.
When was I assume it was discovered this just last year or so.
It was
That's
discovered
kind of,
1 year ago. Which
kind of makes the point a little bit.
Exactly. We didn't with 1 year's notice, there is absolutely nothing we could do. Because we caught it as it was moving away. It actually had a close approach a year ago, which is why we saw it. And as it's moving away, there's no launch opportunities. Had it actually been coming back to hit us, our only option would be to evacuate. And that isn't a very good option. I feel we can do better than that.
That was a planetary society, excuse me. That was a planetary society funded thing. It was people just interested.
Thank you very much, Bill.
No, but I mean,
no, I'm serious.
It was people around the world just interested
are
in asteroids.
You guys are doing a great
Well, I mean,
job.
we're like-minded. But let me ask us this. This is something you guys should do. How do we donate?
B612foundation.org is our website. We have, a lot of people donate online. We have a large number. We're just like the university here. Lots of big donors and lots more small donors. But it's all important. As much as anything else, because once people donate, they own a piece of it in some sense. They're invested in it. They tell other people. They're our best spokesmen. Or women. So.
Is there, like, how much can Sentinel detect, like, relative to, like, are there things that it won't be able to detect or things that before or after it's there that, like, what's the chance that it catches something that will hit us in the next 100 years?
The chance that it will find something that's going to hit us in the next 100 years is about 30%, because there is about a 30% chance something's going to hit us. And remember, I drew the line at Tunguska scale and up. Smaller ones, it becomes less effective at finding simply because they have to come closer to the telescope to be spotted in the first place, and it takes statistically longer for you to wait for them to come closer to the telescope such that you see them. Now, if our minimum mission is 6.5 years, if we do a mission extension, we'll find even more of those. However, again, everything is statistical, right? Things like comets, which may only have one pass into the solar system, there's not much you can do. But there's not very many. There's 100 times more asteroids than comets.
So is there a trade-off between the size and the amount of time you need to respond?
There is a trade-off between size of the asteroid and how much time you need to respond. But it's not that strong. The strongest function is with warning time. And that's just because of the slight nonlinearity adding up in the orbits. And it turns out that with anything up to a few hundred meters, say 300-400 meters, typically what's called a kinetic impact, or run into it, is just fine. And we can do that today. We've actually done it with a mission called Deep Impact. Not the movie, by the way. And you can fine-tune orbits with something called a gravity tractor. Again, something you can build. Anything larger than about 400 meters or so, you're kind of into the range of having to use a nuclear weapon. You wouldn't actually blow it up. It's not enough to blow it up, but you would actually, what's called a standoff explosion. But, and that's a very serious thing to do, putting a nuclear weapon out in space. But if you're looking at something, half the size, half the diameter of something that's going to wipe out civilization, I think we can have that discussion and do it quickly. So, again, sort of my feeling is like, I don't think the B612 Foundation is going to be the one doing asteroid deflection. We'll give the early warning because I think that the governments of the world are very, very, very good at confronting a threat that is quantified real time, date, place. Right? When things are probabilistic, we're just not good at that. Okay? We're very good at dealing with threats that are extremely specific, and we feel our role is to give that warning and put the information out there so that everybody agrees that that's the threat. There are multiple groups that will calculate orbits off of the raw data that we put out.
Let's take two more questions. There's one here and then one over there.
Hey there, Ed. Alex Lubke.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, this is really interesting. This is kind of looks like almost a paradigm shift in terms of a business model. You would sit there normally expect a big government or government agency to run a program like this to, hey, we're protecting the planet. Now we have essentially a commercial entity who's taking on that charter. So there's something different about this, which that's great, and that's going to open up a lot of interesting conversations, I think. Question for you, obviously you're looking for donations, right? How do you get the world engaged? It's really compelling, right? Obviously the story in itself is compelling, but you're still sitting there, trying to get people to fund this and to pay for this. How about some, opening up this socially to the planet in interesting ways? I don't know how you normally name these asteroids, but perhaps you could do something that, depending on your level of investment,
We've actually
your
been
small ones. Yeah,
that.
there you go. You know where I'm going with this.
I think you're correct that this is an interesting thing. Okay. Now there are companies out there doing things that are for profit, right? We thought long and hard about this, right? How do you turn this into something that could be a for-profit venture? It's very difficult, right? Because you cannot just say, I'm going to withhold that information unless you pay us $1 trillion, right? That's, in the end, we realize that, you kind of have to be a nonprofit, I think, in this, okay? And I'm okay with that. This is an interesting thing for the economists. How do you make saving the world pay for itself, right? And the thing that motivates our donors that I've been finding is really this chance to make a difference, a chance to leave a legacy, chance to take part in something bigger than themselves. And that's really, as every one of our major donors, we ask, why did you donate? And I think that is number one. It is definitely number one. It is this idea that this sort of empowering feeling that humans can change the evolution of this solar system. So now about naming, the International Astronomical Union, we've been having this discussion online or via email, huge email thread. The rule right now for official naming of astronomical objects is this body of astronomers which goes back 200 years. Whoever discovers an object gets to name it. Okay. Our donors are part of our team. We get to name everything we discover. Now, Sentinel is about 100 times more effective at finding near-Earth asteroids than all other telescopes combined. Okay, so essentially every asteroid known to man in 10 years from now will have been discovered by us. Okay, so we'll write the whole catalog, and we get to name them. The convention, however, is that the International Astronomical Union votes on each naming thing by hand. Okay, it's not going to work. We discover 20,000 asteroids a month. Okay, their process, as we used to say at Google, does not scale. So we're working with them to figure out. They had this thing. Well, you can't, sell names. We're like, well, but if we're the discoverer, then we can name it, right? And they're like, well, yeah, but you still can't sell names. So, to be worked out, but we're going to make some announcements here in the next few months about that. But I think that is something that if you think about it, we get to name it, right? So I'll leave it at that for now.
Yes, sir.
Possibly my hearing aid missed this, but is there any alternative to adjust the velocity of an asteroid other than a nuclear explosion?
Yes, there's the easiest alternative is what's called the kinetic impact. Just run into it with a small spacecraft. And for anything under a few hundred meters, that's perfectly fine. So nuclear weapons case, if you really look at the face space, what percentage of those would you need them? It's actually fairly small. It's sort of in 5-10% range. The vast majority of the cases, so out for the next century or so, or actually for out the next 1,000 years or so, you're mostly looking at running into it with a small spacecraft. We could do this. If you know where they are, you can do this. If you don't know where they are, the only indication you get that an asteroid is going to hit us is the flash in the sky and the resultant tidal wave. I think we can do better than that.
Ed?
Well,
Let's see.
thank you very much.